Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. Glad to welcome you back to the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Roll Tide, and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota. Check out TuscaloosaToyota.com for all the latest information from our friends at Tuscaloosa Toyota, as we're glad to be back with you for the first of two shows this week. We'll also be back coming up on Thursday at 2 p.m. with another edition of Crimson Drive as we take an inside look at Crimson Tide athletics. Start to go through all of our headlines for today, thanks to our friends at RJ Young. They are the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive, and they have set us up with this smart board to go through all of the headlines, starting with what is coming up on the show today. Last night at Baumhauer's Victory Grill, we had a great time catching up with the head coach of the Crimson Tide men's basketball team, Nate Oats, as well as the gymnastics head coach, Dana Duckworth. Both Alabama men's, women's basketball, and gymnastics all coming up at home this week at Coleman Coliseum. So we'll replay those conversations with Coach Oats and Coach Duckworth, getting you prepared for a very busy week of basketball and gymnastics here in Tuscaloosa. And then, as I mentioned, women's basketball as well will be home. They were also at home in the last ball game on Sunday, had a tight loss against Florida Gators. We'll hear from head coach Kristy Curry after that ball game with Coach's Checklist. Now, going through the different headlines for today, we start with men's basketball, and the Crimson Tide had a tough outing on Saturday against Mississippi State, falling 78-66, as we'll talk about with Coach Oats in just a minute. Rebounding was one of the big issues for Alabama on Saturday, and with the loss, Alabama 11-6 overall, and the Crimson Tide 2-3 in SEC play. Started with a couple of wins against Tennessee and Florida, and now a three-game losing skid against Missouri, Auburn, who's now second in the nation, and then last time out against a very good Mississippi State team. So the Crimson Tide, with that three-game losing streak, now out of the top 25, but some big games coming up this week at home in Tuscaloosa, starting with the Lsu Tigers. That's coming up tomorrow night, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Our radio coverage will begin at 5 o'clock. Don't forget, you can watch our pregame show stream live on the Alabama Athletics Facebook page, our Facebook page as well, the Stipe Lounge setup presented by Royal Furniture. Look forward to that coming up tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Let's talk about women's basketball for a moment. Again, the Crimson Tide women's team a little bit shorthanded, had some COVID issues for the women's basketball team that had the roster down to just 8 players available for the ballgame on Sunday. Quite an effort from Kristy Curry's team, as Alabama did fall 85-77. With a shorter roster, shorter bench, Alabama needed some players to step up, and Megan Abrams did so for the Crimson Tide with 22 points to lead Alabama in that game. Great to see Jemiah Mingo Young step up her scoring as well. You'll hear about that from Coach Curry coming up a little bit later on. So the Crimson Tide now 10-7, 4 straight losses in conference play. Alabama now 1-5 in the SEC. And Thursday, it's a matchup with the Arkansas Razorbacks. A bit of a later tip time, 8 o'clock on Thursday night. That game will be broadcast here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, as we'll have a courtside cam available for that ball game, and also the game will be televised on SEC Network. But we look forward to Alabama hopefully bouncing back against Arkansas, a team that's 1-3 in the SEC. And then the Crimson Tide women's team will make the trip to Auburn coming up on Sunday, trying to pick up their second win over the Tigers this season. Alabama gymnastics, so we're getting excited to see the Crimson Tide at home coming up after we saw a tight loss at number 2 Florida on Sunday. Luisa Blanco, great performance, won the balance beam with a 9.950, and the Crimson Tide performed so well all throughout that meet against Florida. It was televised nationally on ABC. The Gators had back-to-back perfect 10s in the floor exercise to close out the meet, and that's what allowed them to move just past Alabama. So Crimson Tide have played against or competed against two of the best teams in the country in Oklahoma and Florida. Now Dana Duckworth's team is back at home against Kentucky, 6:30 start time on the SEC Network Friday night. It'll be the first of 5 home meets at Coleman Coliseum. They're always energetic, always a lot of fun, so we certainly hope you can make your way to Coleman at some point to cheer on the Crimson Tide. Speaking of cheer, how about the Alabama cheerleading squad? The Spirit Squads had great weeks at the national championships as Alabama won its 3rd ever UCA D1 all-girl national title. So great to see that for Jennifer Thrasher, the head coach of the Spirit Squads for Alabama. And coming up on Thursday's edition of Crimson Drive, we will be speaking with Jennifer about the wonderful week Alabama had competing and winning a national championship. So congratulations to the Crimson Tide cheerleading squad on that great honor. Football, congratulations to Dallas Turner, outstanding freshman linebacker for the Crimson Tide. He was named to the freshman All-America team by the Football Writers, so great honor for Dallas Turner, who really stepped it up as the year went along. And then men's tennis got their spring portion of the schedule, the winter portion, off to a great start with a win against Mercer and Sanford on Saturday. Swimming and diving had a split with Auburn on Saturday as the women were able to pick up the victory 161-39. The men's team did fall to Auburn in a very tight contest, but great to see that. And again, some sports are starting to round into gear. It's the wintertime. Softball, we're only about 24 days away from softball opening day. Patrick Murphy's team has started practice. We're 31 days away from baseball starting. Brad Bohannon's team will start their practice in earnest coming up next week as well. So you have a really busy time here at the Capstone, but a very fun time for Alabama athletics. Speaking of fun, we always love picking the brain of Alabama head coach Nate Oats, talking about his men's basketball team. Even though it's not been a fun stretch for his group, there's still so much ahead for Alabama. They got James Rojas back on Saturday. We talk about that and more from Monday night's edition of Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance at Baumhauer's Victory Grill.
Coach, roll tide. It's good to see you. How's everything going?
Roll tide. It'd be better if we were coming off some wins, but we're doing all right. We just got to get better. Got to rebound the ball a little bit better. We don't have an easy one coming in on Wednesday, but thought we had a good practice today. I think guys are, sense of urgency. We got to get better. We guys understand that.
Was that really the message to the Crimson Tide after the Mississippi State game in the locker room on Saturday, talking about the rebounding first of all and the defense?
Yeah, the rebounding was disappointing because at the under 8 media timeout, we were up 1 on the glass, and this is something Mississippi State really hangs their hat on. We'd given up 9 offensive boards to that point, which, to be up 1 on the glass on them, we're proud of. And then, it just kind of fell apart there in the last 7.5 minutes of the game. We gave up 9 offensive boards in the last 7.5 minutes. We'd only given up 9 up to that point. So, they ended up, I think, with 49% of their misses, which you can't win games when the other team gets half their misses. So, our rebounding failed us in the last 7.5 minutes. It's been an issue on and off throughout the course of the year. I thought our bigs actually did a decent job. It was really our guards that hurt us. They didn't check out. They didn't go get balls they needed to get, and they ended up killing us. So, and we still fought in there. We had a shot at the end. Keon Ellis had a shot that probably could have called a foul on. He goes to the free throw line, makes 3, we probably win the game. But, we shouldn't have put ourselves in that situation, to be honest with you. We were up 5 and then just kind of didn't do what we needed to do to close the game out. So, disappointing. This league's tough. Auburn's number 2 in the country. So, we've got a 3-game losing streak. We lost at home to Auburn, who's number 2 in the country. They're a great team. Lost on the road to Mississippi State. Those are both wins we could have had against 2 of the better teams in the league, at home and on the road. The one that's really, biting us bad is the Missouri one. And we told our guys that if we'd lost 2 in a row and we got LSU coming in and we get this win, we'd be all right. We had a chance to go to 4-2. Well, you can't not play hard in the Missouri game. That's really, and I told them when it happened, it's going to be one of those deals that comes back to haunt us because we got to learn from it. We can't ever not play hard again. So if we can learn something from every game, be playing our best basketball come February and March, we'll be all right.
Going back to the Auburn game, what did your team clean up the most from the Missouri game, in your opinion, leading up to that effort against Auburn?
Straight effort. Just, you have to play hard. You can't come out in this league, no matter who it is, what their record is, and not play hard. If you play hard, give yourself a chance in every game. And we didn't play hard enough to give ourselves a chance in that game. So that's the number one thing. Then Auburn, I thought we played pretty hard. They're good. You got to play smart, hard. You got to make some shots. If you're going to be number 2 team in the country, you got to play a high-level game. So, I think Gonzaga's 1 and Auburn's 2. We beat Gonzaga pretty much on the road. Had Auburn on the ropes. Had a shot there with a minute to go that would have put us up. That, we're right in there. We got to clean some stuff up. We got to bring an effort that demands a victory every night out for 40 minutes. Even against Auburn, I didn't think we had it for all 40, but it was a lot closer than Missouri. And then we get to the Mississippi State game and thought we played pretty hard. We couldn't rebound the ball when it mattered in the last 7.5 minutes of the game. So, we're learning, we're getting better. I thought there was a sense of urgency from some of the guys in practice today that I hadn't quite seen for a while, and I liked what I saw. We got to have another good practice tomorrow leading into the LSU game.
If you'd like to join us on the show, give us a call at 877-202-BAMA. And why don't we go to the phones for a moment? Tonight's first question from the fans brought to you by Alabama 811. Always contact 811 before you dig to know what's below. Call 811 or visit al811.com for more. Let's go down to Grand Bay, Alabama and say hello and roll tide to Pee-wee, who joins us now on the phone. Roll tide, Pee-wee.
Roll tide. Hey, Coach, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Pee-wee. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Y'all, you've already covered pretty much what I was gonna ask, but it's like you're saying. I think the biggest thing is consistency. The team has to play with consistency day in, day out, and then if there was just one factor, whether it was boxing out or whatever for the offensive board, what would that be that we needed to improve on the most?
Right now, after the Mississippi State game, I'd say defensive rebounding. And it's not just the Mississippi State game that's hurt us. And we ended up winning a tight one against Houston, but we got beat up on the glass pretty well in that game. It's been a problem in too many games. Guys got to be more physical. They got to be. We play smaller. Keon Ellis been our starting three. He's not big, strong, physical three. We're a little bit smaller, at the guard spot than we were last year. Last year we had Petty 6'5" and Primo 6'6", and Herb Jones could play all over the floor. And, so we're a little bit smaller. Guys got to be tough, physical, mix it up a little bit better. We got to be better on the defensive play. To me, that's the number one thing if you said it. And then there's also a bunch of things on the defensive end we got to get better at. We give up too many blow-bys. We're not forcing enough turnovers. So I don't think our activity off the ball is what it needs to be. But there's other things. But our first shot defense has been pretty good all year. Even against Mississippi State, I think we were a .69 on first shot defense, but we were a 1.5, on second shot. Well, if we'd have been at a .69 efficiency all game, we'd have won the game going away by a long shot. So if we can get the defensive glass cleaned up, I think we'll be all right.
Thank you for the call, Pee-wee. And when you get back with your team on the practice floor, get back to working on some fundamentals, is there a go-to rebounding drill that you like the most or you like to bring up at different points?
Yeah, we've got plenty of rebounding drills. The issue is at this point of the year, some of the tougher rebounding drills are a little more injury prone. We're trying to get the message across without, having some unnecessary injuries. But, we do a war drill that we got from Michigan State that we've always done. We did it today, it's kind of a rebounding transition D drill. So, guys got after it. I thought they were better. I really saw some guys making a concerted effort to box out, be more physical than they've been all year. So we're going to have it tomorrow in practice. We're going to have it again against LSU.
Somebody that showed up for the Crimson Tide on Saturday in Starkville was James Rojas. First of all, what can you tell us about the hard work that he had to put in to be ready at this point of the season? Yeah,
Clark said he's done as good a job as about anybody coming back from this injury. He's been all about it. Amanda, our nutritionist, he's been great with her because last time it's his second ACL. Terry's had to come back from the first time. He'd gotten too heavy, and so then it took us a while to get him in shape. He was in shape. He told me after, we had him in the books in case of emergency. We had some foul trouble. I went down to Clark. He's like, yeah, go ahead, put him in. Put him in. He played hard. I thought he changed the whole dynamic of the game. His energy, his toughness. We were getting punked out a little bit, be frank with you. And I thought he came in and took the fight to them and really brought it. So coming out of halftime, went down, what are you good? He said, shoot, I'm good to go all 20 if you need me for a coach. We didn't do that, obviously, but I thought he was in good shape. So he's worked hard. He's obviously going to be available for the LSU game. I saw him Sunday. We were in a staff meeting. We didn't practice Sunday. They were off, but a lot of them came in to see Clark in the training room, and I went to see him. He said his knee felt a lot better than he thought it would feel after playing for the first time in a game. So I think he's in a good spot. He looked good in practice today. He's hitting shots. He's getting on the glass. He's got to get back and playing. There's stuff you miss when you haven't played in a while. Just playing shape being one, but just feel for the game. He's got to get. But there's one thing he has that he's not losing is his competitive nature and his toughness, and we need some of that.
And as he comes in, you talked about it after the Mississippi State game, you and the staff kind of working hard to make sure you figure out the best five on the floor for Alabama. How does he kind of change the conversation along with the rotation of Charles Bediako and Noah Gurley? What does he really bring?
Yeah, you can play James at the 5 and the 4 both. You can kind of put him and Gurley. They can both play on the perimeter in together. You can put him at the 4, Charles at the 5, put him at the 5, Noah at the 4, Noah at the 5. I mean, Darius Miles has been playing a lot of minutes at the 4. Juwan Gary's been playing minutes at the 3. If they both play really hard and well and we're having rebounding problems, you put one of those guys at the 3 and start to shore up your rebounding problems. You won't be as small at that time. We might not be as skilled or as good on offense, but offense hasn't really been our problem. It's been more defense, rebounding, toughness. So, he gives you different options that you've got available. He gives you options. Somebody doesn't want to rebound, don't want to guard, doesn't want to play hard enough, you just don't play them. It's better when you got more options because the bench is a great teaching tool at this level. So guys don't want to play hard and do what we ask them to do and make some tough plays, and they can come sit next to us on the bench.
I know it's been a tough couple days around the basketball offices trying to get things on track, but has Brian Hodgson stopped talking about the Buffalo Bills and what they did the other night to the Patriots?
Look, I didn't watch any of it. That was the night that we were at Mississippi State. I was trying to figure out what's wrong with us watching film. He informed me today that apparently they played a perfect game. There was no...
Every possession, touchdown.
They scored a touchdown on every possession. They didn't turn it over. They didn't punt. They didn't kick a field goal on any possessions. Is that true?
Believe so.
Well,
I heard that rumor as well.
I mean, if you ask Brian, they're the best team in the NFL. Well, hopefully we're Packers, Bills in the Super Bowl. If that's the case, we'll have a fun office around there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you ready to go for the Packers talk coming up?
Yeah, I mean, we got some Packer fans in the office. Derek, our video coordinator, is from Wisconsin. I got a couple other Packer fans. So I think Brian's the only Bills fan, though. I do have a Bills sweatshirt, but I'm not. The only time I'll wear the Bills sweatshirt is if the Packers are out of the playoffs. Then I'll become a Bills fan.
Well, you had to be the guest of honor there a few times when you were at Buffalo, right?
No, I went to some Bills games. They're crazy in Buffalo with the whole Bills Mafia is nuts. It was good. I mean, Buffalo can be my AFC team. I'll take Buffalo as my AFC team.
There you go. You've earned it with some time there. Of course, now we're glad you're here in Tuscaloosa, and again, looking forward to a Wednesday night against the LSU Tigers, a team they got to play 3 times last year. Alabama got the win in all those matchups, but how much has LSU changed from the team we saw last year to where they are now with Will?
I mean, they were not a very good defensive team last year. They swapped out some personnel. They're the number 1 defense in the country. So I think some of the guys that were very talented offensively that played well for them, shoot, they almost beat us in the SEC championship, but didn't really want to guard on the defensive end, are gone. And they've got some guys in there that take pride in the defensive end, and they're now the number 1 defense in the country. I mean, they force a lot of turnovers, they block shots. Teams shoot poor percentage from 3 on them. So they do a lot well. They switch everything, on ball, off ball. They're almost everything. You got a switchable team, a lot of good athletes. They're going to cause problems to our offense. Our defense going to have to be elite because our offense hasn't typically been our issue. Our offense is going to have to be good against these guys, but we just got to get back to really guarding and being great on the defensive end. If we're great on the defensive end, we're going in transition. They'll have problems guarding us. If we're going against their set defense all night, we're going to be in some trouble because their defense is good. So. I mean, they've got a kid coming off the bench, a transfer, Tari Eason. Go to KenPom, they got him like second on the MVP for the SEC right now, player of the year in the SEC, like right behind the Sheboy kid from Kentucky. So, he comes off the bench for them. He's playing well. They loaded up with some transfers. They got him. They got Xavier Pinson, the transfer from Missouri. They've got some good freshmen that are playing well for them. They got some good returners that played well for them. They've got a good team. I mean, they're good. Some of the guys that were there last year that didn't play as much are playing more now, and they're playing really well. So it's gonna be a tough game Wednesday night.
What makes Eason so good?
He's kind of a mismatch guy. He gets by. He drives to the rim hard. He plays super hard. He gets the offensive boards. He kind of post up, drive you. Decent enough shooter to keep you honest. I mean, he does a little bit of everything well, and he plays really hard.
Crimson Tide against LSU coming up on Wednesday night. I did want to ask you as well about Alabama's 3-point shooting. What are you seeing right now in the selection of the shots from your guys?
Yeah, you know what? So when you struggle shooting the ball, I think that's the first question you always got to ask is what's our shot selection look like? And at times it's not quite where it needs to be. But it's a little odd because we're turning down good shots. To me, we're turning down good shots to end up with worse shots or turnovers later in the possession. I told our guys, you're not going to get out of a shooting slump turning down good shots. Like, you have to shoot every good shot you get. You know, like, Quinn turned some down, Keon Ellis turned some down, Darius Miles turned one down in the corner, traveled with the ball. You know, we got to take the good ones and don't take the bad ones. Like, it's not that complicated. If you're contested, you drive the ball or you move it. If you're open, shoot it. Like, we don't try to overcomplicate things. Like, if you're open, shoot the ball. If not, you know, make the next play. Like, move the ball and or drive the ball if they're closing hard. So I don't want guys overthinking everything on that, because I think when you overthink, you start second guessing everything. But to take every good shot, I mean, if the ball's been driven in the paint, the defense collapse, and we kick it out to you, like, shoot it every time if you're a shooter. I think if we can just take great shots, I think Quinn shot it really well in practice today. Thought he had one of his best practices he's had all year. Hopefully that translates tomorrow. Another great practice, and then, you know, let's get him going in the game. Because he's a kid that shot the ball at 50% in SEC play last year. He's shooting under 25% on the year now. Like, he's not a 25% shooter. He's maybe 50% was a little, you know, high, but I mean, he did it for an entire 18-game regular season SEC schedule last year. So, you know, but 40% would be what we'd expect out of him. So if we can get him up to around 40, you know, moving forward, I think would be good. Shackelford's a better shooter than what he's shown. You got to get him better shots. Keon Ellis, better shooter than what he's shown. You know, we're a better shooting team than what we're shown. We were 12%. We're not 12%. We're 12th in the SEC in three-point percentage in just SEC games. To me, we should be top 3 or 4. So we've got to change that. Our shot selection's got to get better, and we got to make some open shots.
Have you been seeing that in practice as well? Is it almost lined up with game performance, or have you seen anything different in practice?
I think the ball moves a little better in practice. I don't know what, you know, we get in the games, teams switch. We've been working our switch attack in practice. It's looked better. You know, I don't know, guys get a little antsy, or ball sticks a little bit more in the games for whatever reason. But, you know, we looked good today. I thought we looked really good. I thought there was some energy about us. I thought Shaq was great. Quinterly was great. You know, we had some good. Rojas looked really good. You know, we try to, 2 days out from the game, we don't really put the starting group together. We try to make 2 even teams. But, you know, I thought those guys played really hard. I thought, you know, they look at Jawan Gary. He's been struggling a little bit here lately. He was on that team. He looked really good today in practice. So if we can get the ball moving, Jason Holt was on that team. He made some shots and played really hard on the defensive end and rebounded well. So if we can get the ball moving and just get the guys to play really hard and keep the ball moving, be unselfish, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, what have you liked about Jason Holt and what he can provide this team moving forward?
You know what? I talked to him today a little bit. You know, he's got to get him to play hard every possession. He's got to quit worrying about whether he makes or misses shots. Like, if you miss a shot, who cares? You're not going to be 100%. Like, if you shot 40% from 3, it'd be a great percentage. Quit worrying about every miss. Play hard on defense. You know, have a great attitude on the bench, rebound the ball, and we'll get you some minutes and see what you can do for us.
Crimson Tide against the LSU Tigers coming up on Wednesday night inside Coleman Coliseum. Of course, the last time Alabama was at home, sold out against the Auburn Tigers last week, and it was a really unbelievable atmosphere. I know you want to see that once again coming up on Wednesday and also coming up on Saturday when Missouri comes back to town. Just faced them over a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, Missouri's one of those, like, we know we should have won at their place. Like, if our guys don't have the energy, enthusiasm, effort to play them when they come back, like, they don't need to be on the team. Like, we need to be ready for that game. We need to be ready for LSU at home. We need to be ready for Missouri. Like, we've got to start playing better, and we shouldn't have to give motivational New Rockney type speeches for these guys to be ready for these games. They need to bring some energy to the game. And that's got to be one of those where we bring some real energy, like the LSU game does too. I mean, they're a good team that plays really hard. They're #1 defensive team in the country, and we're going to have to bring it in both these next games.
Coach, we're looking forward to it. Can't wait to be back inside Coleman Coliseum and watch the Crimson Tide coming up this week against a couple of Tigers. LSU on Wednesday, Missouri on Saturday. Just thank you so much for joining us. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Appreciate it, Roger. Thanks.
That was our conversation with Alabama men's basketball head coach Nate Oats as the Crimson Tide are at home this week against the Tigers. First LSU coming up on Wednesday night and then on Saturday against Missouri, trying to avenge that loss from a couple weeks ago in Columbia. So a great conversation with Nate Oats on Hey Coach last night. We were also joined at Baumhower's Victory Grill by Dana Duckworth, and everyone right now really buzzing about Alabama gymnastics due to the fact that they competed on national television in a regular season conference meet on Sunday against the Florida Gators. It turned out to be a tight win for Florida, and you'll hear all about it next from Coach Duckworth.
From Baumhower's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa, Roger Hoover now pleased to be joined by the head coach of the Alabama gymnastics team, Dana Duckworth. Roll Tide, Dana. How's it going?
Roll Tide. Thank you. Happy to be here, and so happy season started, finally.
Yeah, the Crimson Tide, 2 meets in. First of all, what have you learned about your team in the last couple weeks?
I think this team is resilient. I've seen a lot of fight. Definitely last night's competition that was aired on ABC, national television, was exciting, but I thought that the team really just leaned in and did what they needed to do. And they have a lot of passion for each other. I think our focus really is that this has a team of great talent, so what are you going to do with it? And each week, you're earning it. Nothing's been given to us, and I think that mentality has kept them driving.
You start the year at Oklahoma, and then the week of preparation leading into Florida. What was the focus for your group?
Well, I would say that when we got done with that OU meet, I didn't have to say very much because they knew we had left a lot on the table, and I think because they realized the talent they have, that they're capable of a lot, and so it actually we had the next 2 practices that week before Florida were the best we had had. Just focused and lasered in on the details, which are only going to make us better.
How much does that excite you as a coach when you're seeing that early on and you're not having to say a lot? The team understands what the expectation is for Alabama gymnastics.
It speaks to the process that the girls are really buying into and trusting that the training and preparation is where your confidence is going to come from. And they're doing an excellent job at really just bringing that every day. And, I don't expect them to be happy and perfect every single day, but I think that they can control their attitudes, they can control their effort, and I'm seeing a lot of energy every day, and they're just incredible as far as their chemistry and their unity as a team. So I see a lot of love, which pushes each other.
And I'm sure they're all excited to make the trip to Gainesville, and then you get in there, sold-out arena again. The meet was televised on ABC. Just first of all, what did that mean for you having that national exposure for not only your program, but SEC Gymnastics?
The relevance of our sports. I am so proud that the SEC network started off with Friday Night Heights, and then ESPN grabbed more gymnastics because it was so successful. I don't even think they knew how successful it was going to be, and it ended up being just a headliner. And so for ABC to recognize that gymnastics is about grace and beauty and strength and competitors, it's just got so many elements that really is the all-around, aspect of our sport. I think it says wonders that we were on television. But I also can remember back when I was a gymnast at Alabama, right? I love the sport of gymnastics, every bit of it, the tough stuff, the good stuff, all the wins and losses. You learn something constantly. Well, way back in the day, Alabama gymnastics had a big curtain up the back, and it would make the crowd look like it was bigger. And then while I was there, that was way back, I'm not going to age myself, the curtain came down, and now the whole entire lower bowl was filled. And then all of a sudden, I can't remember the exact year, but we sold out at 15,000. So to know that I've been a part of that journey as an athlete and then as an assistant coach and now as a head coach, it just speaks volumes and says a lot about our sport.
So crazy atmosphere in Gainesville with all that going on. Just some of the early events, some of the early apparatus. What did you see from your group on the floor?
So we started on bars, and Florida was on vault. They had 2 athletes, had some 10-0s that popped up. So the energy was so loud that during Makari Doggette's bar routine, I don't think you could hear anything. It was so loud because they were screaming for the other team. And I just love to see how she maintained composure and did an awesome job. We definitely started off strong on bars. I would say that right now, bars and beam are 2 of our best events, and vault and floor are catching up. So I saw that from the very beginning. We went over to vault. We were very fortunate at Florida to have our full vault lineup, where the week before we had some athletes unavailable. I think that we really did some bigger vaults, and we need to go again, hone in on those landings. Went to floor exercise, and Shalyn Olsen, Canadian Olympian, led us off. And the judges were hard, and they were being very specific, but I think that that's only going to help us get better in the long run. And I think that, Luisa Blanco and Lexi Graber anchored that event and literally were lights out, stunning, gorgeous. Like, they're mesmerizing. And they both had 9.925s on that event. And then we went over to balance beam. It was so loud again that while Luisa anchored beam, the beam was shaking because 2 other athletes had gotten a 10. And so again, what does that teach you? This team is almost using these opportunities to be better for SEC championships, where it's going to be just as loud, even louder. And I thought they just never quit. That's what I really saw. I saw resilience, passion, persistence, and preciseness, which is exactly what we asked them to do.
And it speaks to the culture of Alabama gymnastics. And again, even going back to last year, knowing what it's like to compete at SEC championships, win an SEC championship, that has to pay off in the little moments you saw yesterday.
It makes us better. Hands down, it makes us better. And, the SEC championship is going to be in Birmingham this year, so all of our listeners need to show up. Obviously, you know what the energy can do when the crowd is loud. And one other shout out I have to give is to our brand new freshman, Lily Hudson. She was not able to compete our first meet. She was devastated. She wanted to compete so much, and she was so prepared. And she went out there last night. She competed on 3 events and looked like a veteran.
You mentioned once again Lily Hudson. What has she done to earn some of the early opportunities for your team?
Consistency. From the day that Lily walked into the gym as a freshman, she has put in the work. She is very deliberate in everything that she does and very intentional. We tell the ladies all the time, take every turn as it's a championship return. This is the one that counts. This is the one that you're competing with. And I really have seen that out of her. She's very serious about her gymnastics. And I think in the sense of her passion for wanting to be great, it just oozes out of her.
That's certainly exciting to see. And then looking as well, Luisa Blanco won the balance beam at 9.95. And we talked so much last year about what was leading to her having so much success and then the offseason that she put together. How have you seen that play out in the first 2 weeks for her?
Stunning, steady, and it's like you cannot keep your eyes off of her because she's just so elegant in everything that she does. Gymnastics is not an easy sport. I believe that when you watch Luisa do gymnastics, she makes it look easy and very light and pretty. There's so much beauty involved in what she does, and her floor routine is sassy. So again, even when you watch it on television, it doesn't do it as much justice. And that's why I want people to buy their tickets and get to the meets, because the gymnastics and the athleticism is just incredible. And Luisa's beautiful, along with several of our other athletes that you'll get to see if you come to a meet.
We talked about Shallon just a moment ago. Shallon Olsen was on the vault, the balance bars, floor exercise, making her debut in Gainesville, as well as senior Sania Mitchell and Kaylee Quinn. What can you tell us about how they performed in Gainesville?
Well, Shallon was a steady Eddie. She got out there and did what she knows how to do. We're always working on her form and execution, and she's just one of those you can count on. Sania Mitchell, a senior, that local kid from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, she has worked so hard. And it was interesting because before Oklahoma, she was trying to get her floor routine together, and she just wasn't quite there. And I know that she was very disappointed in herself because she wanted to be ready. And I just had this saying, it's just keep pounding. Like, if you just keep pounding the stone, at some point, it's going to break. And she got the opportunity this weekend. And the smile on her face and the electricity that comes out of her, and she's fun to watch, and she's hip-hop dancing, and she's just, exciting. And her floor routine is funny because she starts off with this telephone, and she, looks at the telephone, and it's just fun to watch her. It's just delightful to see an athlete work that hard and then be prepared so that when the opportunity presented itself, she was able to go out there and do it. So that was awesome. And then, of course, Kaylee Quinn, she's such a fighter, and she's come back from so much adversity with having, she was at another program. She chose to come to Bama. She had a torn ACL. She rehabbed. She got back. She's doing great. And now she's one of the best vaulters we have in the entire team. And she's actually training floor, and she has a lot of big tumbling. We just got to get the consistency there. So I hope to see her on more, too. But I can speak so many beautiful things about Luisa, Lexi, Shallon, Sania. I really have so many positives for everybody on the team. The beautiful piece is they all know everybody matters. Everybody has to keep pushing, because at any point, especially with all the COVID things that we're going through and teams are going through, someone's going to be needed and something's going to happen. And so who's going to snag it when the opportunity presents itself? It's always fun to watch.
Alabama Gymnastics coming home on Friday night.
Woohoo! Finally, yes. So we are going to be home. It's our first home meet of the season. I believe I heard a crazy statistic that the last time it took us 3 weeks to get into a home season match competition. I just said match with my own sport. Goodness gracious.
You heard me. I keep
Yeah,
calling it
I
a
know,
game.
I know.
You guys played great in the Florida game.
Was 2003. Now, what's that mean, fans? We need you there. You've had 3 weeks to get a taste of college gymnastics that's been on television, and now it's time to show up in Coleman Coliseum. I will tell you that the energy that the crowd and students bring make a difference. It makes a difference in the pressure for the judges, which we want them to, side on the air of excellence for Alabama. And, of course, our ladies have worked really hard, and they want to perform.
They certainly do, in front of a packed house at Coleman Coliseum. Coming up 6:30 on Friday night. The meet will air on the SEC Network. And in addition to having that fan support, what do you want to see in terms of growth from your individual gymnasts getting ready for Friday night? What's going to be most important, not just in what we've been able to do today, but tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, getting ready for Friday night?
The focus has been on those little details, attention to detail. So for us, if we just focus on one thing this week to improve from last week, it'd be stuck landings. And that's everywhere on all 4 events, where we have controlled landings on floor and then more sticks. That is totally doable. Some of it's more mental than anything else. And so I think that now we have 2 competitions under our belt. The nerves have kind of been shook. We still may see some new faces because we're continuing to push the depth and such, but I think the focus and stuck landings will be the 2 biggest things we need to continue to work on this week.
Any new wrinkles, anything added to some of the routines we've already seen in the first 2 weeks?
At this point, I feel like we're pretty solid in the routine construction and what we're doing. There may be some small tweaks here and there, but the consistency of the routine construction does help them stay confident and prepared. So you won't see much change. You just might see a few switches in the lineup as far as order or who goes first and who goes second.
And you mentioned the floor exercise at home is just a completely different deal.
It is. I mean, that's their performance. That is their stage. They love to bring the audience in, and they do a great job at really making it electric and exciting where you just can't stop watching. And, of course, we've got big tumbling and exciting tumbling. But I do have an idea. I literally just thought of this, Roger. So our girls, when they're loading the plane, a lot of times look in the camera and they're saying, we're going on a business trip, which they just use as kind of an opportunity to get on the road and go do it. Well, how about we challenge the fans and say, we need you on a business trip in Coleman Coliseum. So fans, supporters, all the students, take a business trip on Friday and it's 6:30 p.m. and come to Coleman Coliseum. And let's kick off this home season with excitement and passion, all the things I want of the girls. Let's bring it as a fan.
We look forward to it. Business trip coming up Friday night at Coleman Coliseum, Alabama against Kentucky in gymnastics. Coach Duckworth, thank you for joining us. Roll Tide.
Thank you. Good luck to men's basketball Wednesday against LSU. Roll Tide.
Fun time last night with Coach Duckworth at Hey Coach. We certainly appreciate her time as well as Nate Oats on Hey Coach, which again comes your way at 6 o'clock each and every Monday night. We stream it live here on our CTS and Facebook page, available to listen to across our radio network and the Varsity Network app as well. Before we close out this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota, we do want to touch on women's basketball for a second, as Alabama was at home at Coleman Coliseum on Sunday, taking on the Florida Gators on Alumni Weekend. A lot of former Crimson Tide women's basketball players were in town. It was We Back Pat Day, and Alabama did lose to Florida 85-77, as the Crimson Tide have lost 4 games in a row in SEC play. And after the ball game, Coach Kristy Curry and a couple of players spoke to the media. Here's Coach's checklist from their post-game press conference after the Florida game on Sunday.
A lot of tears in the locker room. A group of kids that fought their hearts out today. I'm really proud of their effort. Yes, there were things that we could have done better. But I thought we had some players through some adversity give an amazing effort today. We came up short, and we just, continue to build on the positives with our effort and energy today, and continue to look at areas that we have to improve. And I think when you look at the box, little things that are in our control, from free throws to loose ball here or there, and just some critical stops. This team, like I told them, are going to have days where they're going to feel a lot better in that locker room if they continue to fight and claw and scrape like we did today.
Coming into the game, we knew that we was down people, so we knew that we had to have the next man up mentality. So it wasn't just me that had to step up and scoring. Kai came in, she did a great job for us, so that was the mindset for us, next man up.
I'm really proud of both of these two to my right and left today. Amazing effort, and I've been trying to get her to be more aggressive offensively. Yeah, we just want her to look to score, so I'm really proud of both of them today. I thought Kyla came in just with no hesitation. Boy, these two right here, We're really, really good as far as being aggressive today.
Certainly a lot to be proud of for Alabama on Sunday. Alabama was shorthanded due to some COVID issues, only had 8 players available for that ball game, and still played Florida to the absolute wire at Coleman Coliseum. So we're hopefully going to see a healthier Crimson Tide roster coming up on Thursday night when Alabama's back at home against Arkansas. And speaking of what's coming up at Coleman Coliseum, this is our favorite building to be in coming up this week, and you'll see why as we take a look at our Crimson Tide Sports Network schedule. We're going to be busy inside Coleman, starting with tomorrow night, men's basketball against the Lsu Tigers. 6 o'clock will be the tip-off. Our airtime will be 5 o'clock here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Make sure you come up to Stipe Lounge on the concourse, say hello to us. We'll be up there to begin our coverage before moving courtside for the game. We'll have the courtside cam available as well for men's basketball. Of course, we'll have Thursday's edition of Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota at 2 p.m. right back here on our Facebook page. And then later that night against Arkansas, we'll have the radio broadcast as well as a courtside cam for the Crimson Tide and the Razorbacks in women's basketball. Friday, we will not have a CTSN broadcast, but make sure you go home and turn on the SEC network and watch the Crimson Tide Gymnastics team against Kentucky. Or if you're going to Coleman Coliseum, make sure you have that business trip mindset that we just heard from Coach Duckworth, as she wants all fans to have. We're really excited that gymnastics is back in Tuscaloosa. Saturday, back at Coleman Coliseum, 4 o'clock airtime, 5 o'clock tip-off against Missouri. Again, we'll have the Stipe Lounge shut up upstairs in the concourse, then the courtside cam available as well. And then on Sunday, we'll be hitting the road, going down to the Plains. It'll be Alabama against Auburn. 3 o'clock tip-off from Auburn Arena, as we'll have the radio broadcast for you as the Crimson Tide look for the season sweep against the Auburn Tigers. Then next week, before you know it, it'll be time for, again, Monday's edition of Hey Coach, Tuesday with Crimson Drive. But for today, that's going to wrap up this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota. Make sure you go online and check them out at TuscaloosaToyota.com. Thanks to Dana Duckworth and Nate Oats for joining us on Hey Coach last night. Thank you as well to Ethan Carabin, our producer, for putting this show together. We'll be back with you coming up on Thursday at 2 p.m. We know we'll be talking some Alabama cheerleading with Jennifer Thrasher, the head coach of the Spirit Squads, and we'll have tons more as well, and hopefully talking about a win for men's basketball. Don't forget to watch our coverage coming up tomorrow between Alabama and LSU right here on the CTSN Facebook page. For everybody with the network, this is Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive. Have a good afternoon and roll tide, everyone.